So hi there. Thanks for clicking on my video, and before I start my video I would like to tell you something. Guys, the purpose of my videos, these kind of video which I'm uploading, is to sending out a kind of message at large, starting out a kind of conversation, a kind of discussion. And if you are not agree with my point of view, you feel free to present your disagreement, your own opinion in the comment section below, because these are the topic where you cannot say that this is right and this is wrong. Everybody has their own perspective or their own way of looking at things. So that is why feel free to comment if you are not agree with my point of view. So starting out with my story today, it is about my own aunt. So my aunt got married at the age of 17. Back in those days, people used to get married at their teens. It's a kind of arranged marriage fixed by their families, So my uncle, he was good 14 years older than my aunt, and my uncle, he was always abusing, arguing, fighting with my aunt in front of my cousin. Only one cousin I had, and they used to fight in front of my cousin, and sometimes they used to mess up the whole thing. They used to fight a lot. Most of the time my uncle used to fight with my aunt, and and you also know one thing, that back in those days, the women, they had no other alternative but to bear out, to tolerate the whole thing, which goes on in the family. So my aunt, she had to tolerate, she had to go through all these kind of inhuman the thing which used to happen on her. And my cousin used to witness all these things, sometimes it also got physical too. So he used to watch all these messing up things every day. And now my aunt and uncle both have passed away, leaving behind their only son, who also carries the same tradition of beating, bashing, humiliating his own wife in front of everybody. Sometimes it would take a bad turn, and this wife of my cousin, she says that she has no other alternative, she has no other choice, because she got married to my cousin, without the consent of her parents. So that is why she is bearing, all these kind of hellish treatment. The most surprising thing is that, my cousin always claims to love his wife dearly, and he says that he loves his wife to bits. Sometimes I even see their posting on social media. They claim to be madly in love with each other, and they're posting their pictures, their videos on social media. I remember in my own brother's, real brother's marriage, both of them showed up, and out of nowhere my cousin, he just slapped his wife right in front of everybody. And his wife, the weirdest part is that his wife, he got upset for some time, and then again she got back to normal. And my cousin, he just seems to be so normal, as if that nothing had happened. For him, the smacking to his wife and to beating his wife is a kind of normal routine, because he has been watching his father doing the same thing with his mom. So that is why it is nothing new for him, and he never feels ashamed of beating his wife in front of other people, or sometimes slapping, or sometimes abusing, or sometimes thrashing her. And you can bet that that kind of messed up stuff messes with the mind of the kids, bad, real bad, So the children are capable of adapting their parents' behavior. Whether it is positive or negative behavior, they are adapting to it, and later on in their life, the impression of it's really, really bad, it falls on their life. So a parent's behavior can greatly influence a child's behavior later on their life, This is called intergeneration transmission, or you can call it a social learning theory,
It may be possible that we have differences in opinion. At times, it may be possible that we have dissatisfaction, discontentment amongst ourselves, and we may not come to a common consensus. But to be very honest, my dear friends, when we fight in front of our children, we do not become role models. So being an educationist, I would request you not to indulge in any kind of arguments or fights in front of your children. Whenever you have any difference of opinion or maybe any dissatisfaction, discontentment over anything, you can talk to your spouse but not in front of your child. Remember, if you want a healthy mind of your child, you have to behave in a very, very balanced manner and a disciplined manner.
If their parents are constantly fighting, disrespecting each other, or having a kind of arguments, children, they adopt it, they normalize it, and they think that it's really, really acceptable, whatever they are watching, around them. Children who are constantly watching their parents are having a kind of disrespectful behavior, they also adopt the same thing in their own life, same pattern they are adopting, like as I told you about my own cousin, it's a kind of, perpetuating cycle of harmful behavior because their parents are role model for them.
Well, the question is whether parents should argue in front of their children or not. Well, the answer is a big no. To argue means to have differences. It is one thing to share, it is one thing to express emotions, but to argue loudly, to be argumentative in vociferous tones, to be aggressive, well, it indeed tells upon the children. The child, as such, tries to copy, he or she tries to emulate the father or the mother in conversation. So, you need to be very careful while conversing with your spouse.
The question which I really wanted to bring in that, fighting is very, very normal thing. When you are husband and wife, it's natural that you are going to fight, to have a kind of conflict, to have a kind of disagreement on some issues. Maybe it is personal issue or some interpersonal issues. The question is that whether you are reconciling the thing or not, whether you are solving out your problem or not. That is the question. If you're fighting, having a kind of argument in front of your children, that is very natural to have. But at the same time, you should you should show your generosity, your maturity by solving out the matter, and that too should happen in front of the children. Things should be negotiated through, and your whole conflict should come back to normal. It should be normalized, because this is something very delicate issue. You have to navigate through it very, very delicately. If you are discussing something important in front of your kids and you find that the argument is heating up, it's okay. Just control yourself and try to solve out the problem in front of the children only, so that they can understand their parents. They're having a kind of fight. It's not a fight, it's disagreement on some issue, and at the same time they are capable of solving out the issue too, because it would affect them on their life too. And if they are having some kind of problem in their school, like teens, I'm talking about 15 or 14 years old girl or boy, if they are having some kind of issue in their life, maybe they are have a kind of disagreement with their classmates or their schoolmates in their relationship, they can also come back to normal position. They also can understand, yes, okay, because this heated argument, it happens and it is very normal process. But the main and important thing is that if you are solving out the matter, sitting together and discussing about it in a very positive and normal way. I also believe in one thing: when children are too small, like 1 or 2 years old, and if you are having a kind of hot argument in front of them, so they are not able to understand what is happening in front of them, because they are processing things all the time, from the place of love and concern. And if they think the things are happening contrary to that, the parents are fighting and having a kind of hot discussion, so it would really, really going to impact their, growth also. And if parents are constantly fighting in front of them, it can lead to fear, anxiety, stress for them when they are growing up. But when children come to an age of maybe 10 or 12 or 14 or 15, and if they see that parents are constantly fighting on some issue, they actually try to find some other sources for their own dependence, because all the time they are taking center in their parents, because it's very normal thing. It's a kind of normal thing that children, they always seek a kind of shelter, a kind of what do you call, refuge in front of a kind of refuge in front of their parents. And when they see that parents, where they are supposed to take shelter, they are fighting constantly, they look for some other sources where they kind of peace and solace, and they create a kind of bonding with other people. Maybe that person might be their teacher, or some other elderly person, or his friends or her friends. So the thing is that, if they find that this place is not providing them what they really want to have in their life, a kind of security, a kind of love, a kind of shelter from the outer things, when they want to take refuge inside their parents' refuge, in the parents' lap, they try to find something else in outside world, and then nobody can stop them from going outside. So when they are not able to find that much security and protection from their own home, they try to look for these things, in outer space. Sometimes they create a kind of emotional bonding with somebody else, and that is very, very natural to happen.
This world is full of agreement and disagreement, understanding and misunderstanding. Sometimes we find it in one's family itself. What happens that nowadays life has become so fast and complicated that the spouse, she has to run here and there in search of a job, and sometimes it becomes very difficult for her to get adjusted with the family. It is quite obvious, and this becomes the origin of disagreement with her husband. And sometimes we find that she becomes quite agitated, or husband becomes quite agitated. This much is okay, all right, this much can be understandable, but sometimes goes beyond imagination. And what happens that the conflict is between the two goes beyond their bedroom and goes in front of their child. It has an adverse effect on the tender mind of child. What happens that the child, who is the best observer of both, finds that their father and mother quite often disagree with each other. This is not healthy.
Here I want to say one more thing, that being nice all the time and showing yourself as someone very, very ideal, it's not good. Being nice all the time and wearing the facade of gentleness and sugar coating, that is also not appreciable. Because your child can see one aspect of your personality. They should see that real thing. And the real thing is that, the argument, the conflict, the disagreement, the fight, it happens. It's very, very natural to have. Because if you are avoiding the fight and argument in front of your children, always, getting inside the closed door and having a kind of discussion, making the child puzzle, thinking that what is happening, what kind of discussion they are having. So don't let this thing happen, this is the real condition of life, where problem comes and the solution of that problem also happens, So first of all, you should let your child understand that problem is not getting heated up, it's not taking any bad shape. Rather, you have the capability to sit down and to solve out the problem. It will help the child to understand better that in life, further in his life also, if the child will have some kind of problem, some kind of disagreement with somebody, he will also have the capability to dissolve the problem, to dissolve the issue.
Argument is okay, all right, argument is must, because without argument one cannot reach to a certain agreement. So one must keep it in one's mind that their argument should not go beyond limit. It hampers the growth of the child, and the child who gradually grows up and he goes up to a certain level of thinking, it has an adverse effect. So the couple, they must have this understanding that their disagreement should not go beyond their bedroom. This word is a strange word where it is very difficult to understand each other. The husband and wife, they don't get enough time to understand due to shortage of time. Say they seldom find time to sit together to have a healthy discussion to understand each other because they don't have enough time. So they must have some quality time as well. They spend quality time so that the child who is growing between these two should see that their father and mother has very good relationship, and this will have a very favorable understanding not only between husband and wife but also with the child itself. So, in my opinion, conflict word is a wrong word. It should be affirmation or disagreement. So, disagreement is okay, all right. There should not be agreement all the time, but at the same time, they must understand that disagreement should not go out of imagination.
Don't let your child live in the world of utopia. Let the child understand in the marriage, the marriage couple, they have a kind of wide variety, wide expanses of emotions, which goes through. And it comes in the form of negation, a kind of disagreement, a kind of fighting, a kind of argument, and it is very, very natural process to happen. But remember one thing, these kind of arguments are not breaking apart. It's not disconnecting the link of trust and love. Just make this, understand this thing to your child.
It is not that one should not express one's emotions in front of the child, but emotions and emotions which rather aggravate the situation, there's a difference between the two. In front of children, one has to set a class of a relationship, one has to set something which you call ethos, something which the child is going to recall and remember when he or she grows up as such. There are precedents which the parents are supposed to set in front of their children. We need to be friendly with the child as such. Discussions, ongoing discussions, debate, arguments, expostulations, to an extent in submissive tones, wherein you are mild and wherein there is a sort of understanding which the child is able to decipher. That is fine. But the moment the blame game begins and there are pinpointings in the air, those pinpointings, they really harm the personality of the child. So we need to be very, very careful while interacting with each other in front of our children. The child is watching everything. So The need of the hour is to keep vigil on the words that emanate from the mouth. No foul words, no verbal duel. That is what counts. There should be harmony in a relationship, and that specific harmony, that subtle and salacious harmony, it should be expressed in those words. Remember, once a quarrel, always a quarrel. So, be very, very careful before being bellicose. Just sort it out. Set a precedent. Set an example the child is supposed to follow. Be argumentative, but don't aggravate your argument so as to reach a point of no return.
You need to sit together, have a kind of open, trustful, honest discussion with your partner. And so I would suggest that make them sit. Let them listen also the problem which arises at your family and in your family things, they should also have their own opinion to share with, that is also appreciable. But if you find that something which is very, very grave and serious and you don't find it to discuss in front of your children, it is better to have a kind of discussion, behind the closed door. But it should be in a very respectful manner, in a very, courteous manner, just giving respect to your partner. Because differences of opinion, it happens. It's very, very natural thing, but it just depends on you how you tackle up with the things. Actually, you have to set a kind of boundaries to decide that which kind of topic you should take in to discuss in front of your children, and which are not suitable for them for you to discuss it. That is also one of the things which you have to decide, by setting boundaries. Because maybe sometimes it happens that you are discussing on some very grave and serious issues, and which are not to be taken, which are not to be discussed in front of your children. Keep in mind that impact of this thing is going to be everlasting. It's not going to be good on your children, so it is better just set your boundaries and think that which kind of topic you are going to bring in your conversation. While negative behavior can be learned, but it is not set in stone. Intervention, education, and role models. If you have someone, it can break the cycle of this kind of thing, and you can develop a kind of healthier and happier attitude towards your life. So, open communication and mutual respect is very much needed in the relationship. When you are husband and wife. So, guys, thanks for watching my video. I hope you like my videos. Please, so if you like my videos, please comment and like.